The Justice League, group of the greatest superheroes joining forces for the first time to fight the evils that we never could, and acting like complete and utter assholes in the process.
Yeah, that about sums up Justice League War. Oh, and let's see, Wonder Woman here. Um, hmm, stab in the eye, stab in the eye. Yeah, that's about it. Or he has his neck right here. Neck's broken. Again, that's about it. Or a Green Lantern here.
I watch TMZ.
Yeah, that's about it. And if I'm forgetting anything, I'll just come back and make a joke about it. But yeah, this is my review of Justice League War. And if you can tell from my really cynical, really snarky opening, I was really, really, really disappointed with this movie. Just disappointed in almost every single last aspect. Now, I want to stress to you guys, this movie is not a horrible movie. That's actually kind of the beauty of these DC animated direct-to-DVD movies. I have yet to see one that I absolutely have despised and completely resent watching. I still do recommend some of the worst that we've gotten from the DC animated movies, but even the worst is still like the best of some other really bad animated material out there. Some of the worst of the DC animated movies are still some of the best stuff that you'll probably ever see, which is the true beauty of all these DC animated movies. But this one, for me personally, was a big disappointment. Not only from what we saw previously with Flashpoint Paradox, but from what we've just seen in the past with DC animated movies just in general. As you guys all know, one of my favorite movies from last year was Flashpoint Paradox. So this movie I had a lot of expectations for and was really looking forward to, and once I saw it, I was extremely and vastly disappointed with it. I was actually planning on buying this movie on Blu-ray when it had first come out, but I actually saw it in advance online about a week or a couple days before it came out on DVD and Blu-ray. And I am so glad I saw this before I bought it on Blu-ray, because that would have been a huge, huge, huge mistake, me buying this on Blu-ray. I think the best I would recommend this for anyone who wants to buy it is maybe on DVD, and that's a strong maybe. Like, if you really, really, really need to see this movie, then I suggest just buying it on DVD, because Blu-ray is going to be a big mistake after watching the movie. This movie disappointed the living hell out of me. I was very, very disappointed with this movie. I'm going to explain why in my review. But I'm not going to give the movie, so far you're probably thinking I'm going to give the movie like a really harsh, very low rating, like a 1 or a 2 or 3 or 4 out of 10. But I'm not going to give it that. The best I'm going to give this movie is about a 6 out of 10, maybe 6.5. No, I'm just going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's really just a 6 out of 10, like D, plus, or just D average movie, because again, very much disappointed for me. I guess D for disappointment, but it's just a very average, very mediocre movie. But it still did disappoint me, and there still was a lot of plot holes and just a lot of things that are wrong with the movie. First thing that I want to talk about is the animation, because this actually is one of the aspects of the movie that I did enjoy. Actually, a lot more better than I did the Flashpoint Paradox. I mean, one of my only complaints about Flashpoint Paradox was the animation. It looked very odd and very jumbled. Like, at times it would look really cool and actually really, really neat, and at times it would look very odd and very misshapen and disproportional to a lot of the characters. This movie has it down. The animation in this movie was really, really right on the mark and really, really great. Actually, it was very reminiscent and kind of reminded me of some of the animation found in Young Justice, which, of course, I'm going to praise it for. Like, if this was the animation that we got in Flashpoint Paradox, I think I would have given Flashpoint Paradox like a 10 out of 10. But the animation here is very, very great. It's one of the few things I actually really do like about the movie. But one of the aspects that vastly just and hugely disappointed me was the voice acting. This disappointed the hell out of me, because the voice directing, the voice director or the voice caster, the voice actor caster or the voice acting director of all these DC animated movies, or at least a big giant handful of all these DC animated movies, is Andrea Romano, who, as far as I know, is pretty much the voice directing queen and the voice casting queen of any given animated TV show or movie. To give you guys an idea of what her line of work includes, she has done, again, like I mentioned, a huge, vast number of all these straight-to-DVD DC animated movies. Pretty much all of the animated DC, pretty much all of the DC animated universe TV series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Avatar: The Legend of Korra, and that's just to name a few. That should give you guys a big idea of how great this woman is in voice casting. She has casted a number of some of our favorite characters in animated cartoons, or animated shows, and in movies. And as far as I know, she, again, is the queen of voice casting and voice directing. So, she did the voice work, and she did the voice directing work for this movie, and I was still, for some reason, extremely disappointed with some of the voice casts in this. They were perfectly fine casted, like, Alan Tudyk as Superman was great, but they just don't give him anything to do in this movie, and all of the other voice actors for this movie are just completely dull and not at all, energetic, or they're just extremely dull and just it seem oddly cast, and it seems very, very, oddly cast, the movie, even though I think some of these voice actors would be, great. I thought they were going to be great for the characters that they were casted as, but they were extremely disappointing for some reason, and it's extremely disappointing because Andrea Romano, was the person that gave the green light to all this. She was the chick that said, oh yeah, totally, these guys are cast as this person, and this person is that person. And we've all seen her do great voice casting work before, so here it's extremely disappointing that it didn't at all work out with her at the helm of that. Like I said, Alan Tudyk as Superman was great, but he is barely in the movie, and they give him nothing to do in the entire movie. They give nothing for Alan Tudyk to work with, and they give nothing for Superman, the actual movie, to do. And I'll get into Superman in a minute, because I especially hated Superman in this movie. I also, for some odd reason, didn't like Jason O'Mara as Batman. To me, it just sounded like a very generic, very, been there, done that kind of tired Batman, it just seemed like I'm just gonna do his whole attitude towards the movie and his whole voice towards the movie just seemed like I'm just gonna do kind of what every other guy who has voiced Batman or played Batman has done before. And oddly enough, he sounded a whole hell of a lot like Mark Harmon instead of Batman to me. It was almost like Gibbs from NCIS put on the Batman suit. Which is the kind of thing that's a really badass idea. Someone get working on that, but I digress. Yeah, he just sounded like a very tired, not tired, but very generic, been there, done that Batman. So that was kind of disappointing. I liked some of the other voice actors, but they just were not given anything to do. Maybe they would have turned in a good performance if they were given a little bit more to do, but they just did not work out at all in this movie. That's the thing about a lot of they're not really given anything to do in the entire movie. But to really prove that, I want to talk about Superman in this movie. I especially hated Superman in this movie. In fact, I hated every single one of the characters in this movie. Of course, with the exception to Batman. I hated all the characters in this movie because each and every single character was a giant dickhead in the movie. Each and every single character was a douchebag. They were an asshole. They were just downright either incredibly stupid or giant assholes. And that has to go, especially for good old, the big old blue Boy Scout Superman here, because he's the biggest asshole out of all of them. And it's not the fact that he does a lot of big douchebaggy things or anything, or he's like, oh, I'm the most powerful hero on this team, so I'm going to be like the jock of the team or whatever. He just has, for some reason, this really, really asshole-ish attitude towards everything, and he just seems like a giant dick about everything. It's not that he does anything bad or anything that seems really brash or impulsive. He just has this whole presence that says, I'm an asshole. Like, the first time you see him, it's a very big, asshole thing. Like, he grabs Batman by the neck, and he's like, so, what can you do, you stupid little human? And that's just not Superman. I think if anyone knows how to write Superman, Superman is not that much of an asshole. That's actually what makes Superman so great. It's how ironic, how that's what makes Superman such a great character, is that he has all these powers and can act like a total asshole anytime he wants, but he's the nicest person that you'll probably ever meet in the DC universe. So that's why that character works, and that's why I love that character so much. But here, he's a dickhead about everything, and not only that, but he's barely in the movie. Again, there's nothing for Superman to do, and there's nothing for Alan Tudyk, the voice actor who was cast as Superman in this movie, to do, and that's why I think he doesn't turn in as great a performance as he should. And Superman in this movie was just completely wasted. I mean, if you had taken him out of the movie completely, he would have there would have been really no effect on the movie. And also, people bitching and complaining that Superman acts completely out of character in Man of Steel. Can we get the haters from that movie to make that argument here? Because here that's a good argument, because he acts totally like an asshole in this movie. And also, Superman breaks someone's neck in this movie too, which I gave Man of Steel a pass about that, but if that's going to be like a running theme with every single thing associated with Superman from here on out, I'm going to be done watching Superman stuff, because I, again, gave Man of Steel a pass for it, but here it's just like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, it's kind of justified here. I mean, he was under mind control, and it wasn't really, entirely his fault. It was, he was under mind control. But, do we really, how many times do we need to see Superman break someone's neck? Especially because the character whose, neck he breaks wasn't broke. He doesn't do that in the comic book that this movie is based off of, so it just seems really unnecessary and just kind of brutal, especially for an animated direct-to-DVD movie that's kind of aimed at kids. It just seemed extremely brutal. But that was one thing I just did not like about this movie: Superman being an asshole and just having this whole attitude of being an asshole in the entire movie. And everyone else in the movie was just a giant asshole. Even some side characters that make a really brief, really, really minor appearance. And something about this movie I just found kind of odd that has to do with the voice casting was George Newbern was cast as Steve Trevor, aka Wonder Woman's sort of, boyfriend, who they give the biggest giant middle finger to him in this movie, and I will get to that in a minute. But he voices Steve Trevor in this movie, George Newbern, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because George Newbern voiced Superman in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, Justice League cartoon from a while back. And he, for some reason, wasn't cast as Superman in this movie. That just seems really odd to me. I mean, I'm totally up for other actors playing Superman. I don't think that this one actor has to play one character for all time, but just seemed kind of odd that that actor that played Superman was in this movie with Superman and not playing Superman. I mean, it's kind of like having Kevin Conroy in an animated Batman movie, but he plays hot dog vendor number 2 in the background and not actually Batman. It just seemed really, really odd, just kind of very surreal and weird. But I especially hated the way that Steve Trevor was done in this movie, because they give the giant middle finger to him at the very end of the movie. Now, this is something, going into a little bit of spoiler territory, but, the movie's been out for a little while, so it's kind of your fault if you haven't seen the movie yet. But towards the middle of the movie, when Wonder Woman and Superman meet for the very first time, they kind of have, googly eyes for each other and actually kind of fall in love. And at the end of the movie, that's kind of, that knife is sort of, dug in a little bit deeper, because they're kind of talking it up a little bit at the end. They're kind of flirting with each other. And then we see Steve Trevor in the audience actually get kind of pissed off about that, because he actually kind of liked Wonder Woman, and then he just walks off very angrily. And I thought that was the biggest giant fuck you to Steve Trevor, because Steve Trevor is an awesome character, and in a lot of the comic books, and even in the animated movie, the straight-to-DVD Wonder Woman anime movie, they get together, and they have a relationship together. And actually a nice, well-written relationship, but now it's a relationship between Superman and Wonder Woman. And I always hated that idea of Superman and Wonder Woman being together, because Superman has Lois Lane, and like I just mentioned, Wonder Woman has Steve Trevor. So why have these two characters be together? Have them be completely, distant. I mean, they respect each other as warriors, and they respect each other as colleagues, but I never wanted ever to see them as, oh, lovey-dovey, I love you, Superman, I love you, Wonder Woman. It just seemed always odd to me. It was almost like with, like Spock and Uhura in Star Trek. It was just kind of weird seeing them get together in the movie. It was like, what? That seems kind of weird. I mean, yeah, it seems kind of like ideal. Like, they almost have the exact same powers, they're on the same team. A lot of people would assume that they would get together, but everyone just immediately forgets about Lois Lane and Superman, or, Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman. I mean, if any Wonder Woman's going to get together with anyone, it's Steve Trevor or Batman, not Superman. It always seemed very odd to me. So having them get together was just a horrible idea, in my opinion. And I know it's a thing. It's actually happening in the comics now, but it's dumb in the comics and it's dumb here. So I really hated the fact that they got together in this movie. It was always an odd, horrible idea for me. Just nothing I ever got used to. I always hated that idea, so I hated it in this movie especially. And Wonder Woman in this movie, she was kind of badass for the most part. But again, like Superman, they don't really give her too much to do. If there was anything else I did like in this movie, I did like the whole camaraderie and relationship between Batman and Green Lantern. Throughout the whole movie, them kind of bickering and getting on each other's nerves for the movie. That was actually kind of fun to see. And I did like the whole dilemma between Victor Stone, or Cyborg, and his dad, with his dad being too distant towards his son and more busy on his work than he is with his relationship with his son. I did kind of like that. I mean, it has kind of been seen before, but it did kind of make you grow sympathetic for the Cyborg character. So I did kind of like that. And also, if there was anything else that I really liked in this movie, was the voice casting of Sean Astin as Shazam or Captain Marvel. I know I gave the voice casting and voice work for this movie a rash of shit, but that was actually one of the things that I did like about this movie, was Sean Astin as Shazam or Captain Marvel, whatever you're going to call him. That was really awesome. Seeing him actually play Shazam was really, really fun, really, really interesting, and I wouldn't mind seeing him reprise his Shazam role in later DC directed DVD animated movies. Maybe a Shazam solo movie. I'm actually kind of surprised they haven't done a Shazam solo movie yet for DC, these DC direct-to-video movies. One of the things, going back to the things I didn't like, was Darkseid. I really hated Darkseid in this movie because there's, no explanation for why he comes to Earth. I mean, there's an explanation of what he wants to end up doing to Earth. He wants to, kind of like in Man of Steel, he wants to terraform the world and make it kind of like his own world. He kind of wants to make Earth like another apocalypse or whatever. And it's established that he has done this to many other planets before. But he doesn't at all explain why he came to Earth specifically. Especially because there's 7 other planets out there in our solar system alone that he could go and terraform. So why doesn't he just do that here? That was actually another plot hole in Man of Steel, and if you want to know my thoughts about that, yeah, why didn't Zod just go to Mars or whatever and just terraform that and leave Earth alone? So that's not only a problem in this movie, that's a problem in Man of Steel. So yeah, Man of Steel got that wrong too, but this movie also got it wrong, and we're specifically reviewing this movie, so let's stay on track. They never explain why he specifically comes to Earth. Because plot convenience. That's pretty much the best explanation that they give us. They give no explanation for why he comes to Earth, or why he wants to specifically terraform Earth. That was annoying to me. That was very, very... It was a giant plot hole and it annoyed the crap out of me. And I just didn't simply like Darkseid in this movie. I mean, that's the thing about Darkseid that has always been done with these DC animated or DC animated movies or these DC cartoons. Is that Darkseid always has a motivation. Darkseid is the biggest, baddest, most evil. He's pretty much evil incarnated. He's the embodiment of evil in the DC universe. The biggest DC universe, the biggest DC villain in the DC universe. There's always a reason, there's always a motivation for what he's doing. Like, take for example, in Superman Batman Apocalypse, the reason why he wants to turn Supergirl evil is because he really wants to get back at Superman. He really wants to hurt Superman in the worst way possible. That doesn't mean physically hurting him. But in this movie, there's no reason at all why he wants to take over Earth and terraform Earth and make it like the new apocalypse. Which is a huge disservice to Darkseid because, again, this guy always has a motivation for what he's doing, always has a motivation for why he wants to take over the Earth or kill Superman or do whatever. There's just no reason for why he's doing this. There's no reason for this so-called war. It's just, I'm going to take over the earth because I'm evil, and that's what the villains in comic book movies do, which I really hated. It was just a giant, disrespectful adaptation of Darkseid, and just a giant middle finger to the Darkseid character. So that extremely disappointed the hell out of me. I like the way he looked, but that doesn't make up for anything regarding how the character is actually written. So that disappointed me incredibly. What else? I think that's really that about does it. It was just an extremely disappointing movie for me personally in almost every single last aspect. Every one of the characters were just giant dickheads. They either acted extremely stupid or just were downright assholes. The villain had no motivation whatsoever, and it was just a complete disrespect to the actual character in the comic book. And I haven't read the story that this is adapted from, the Justice League New 52 arc from Jeff Johns and Jim Lee. But maybe that's the reason why I didn't appreciate this movie as much as I could have. But from what I hear, this movie didn't really deviate too far from the graphic novel or the comic book or whatever. So I guess I'm not going to be reading that comic book because I didn't really like this movie all that much. I think the only thing that they changed from the comic book was Aquaman's involvement. Aquaman was in the original comic book that this movie's based off of, but instead they replaced him with Shazam because they want to set up Aquaman in their next Justice League animated movie that they're going to do after this. They even have a post-credit scene that sets that up, but that's really the only big deviation from the actual book that I can think of with this. But if this is like a really true to form adaptation of that original comic book, then I really can't see myself, reading or, viewing that original comic book because I did not enjoy this movie, and I don't think I'm going to enjoy that comic book if this was a 100%, faithful adaptation of that. Because this movie was extremely disappointing for me in almost every single aspect regarding the last DC animated movie and just all the DC animated movies in general. So this movie, like I said, I'm going to give it about a 6 out of 10. I'm thinking I'm a little bit too generous for that, but I really don't think it's all that horrible. I still would recommend it to you guys if you guys really want to see this movie, like you need to see this movie, especially if you're a completist with these DC animated direct-to-DVD movies. But I just did not at all enjoy this movie as much as I was hoping I would. As much as I wanted to enjoy it, I just didn't get that at all. It was disappointing in a lot of the aspects I was really hoping for that were going to be good. But overall, it was just kind of a disappointing movie. So I'm going to end up giving it a 6 out of 10. So that about does it for my review of Justice League War. Hopefully, the next upcoming DC direct-to-DVD animated movie, Son of Batman and Batman Assault on Arkham, can learn from the mistakes of this movie. And you guys can definitely, bet your ass I'm going to be reviewing those movies when they're released on DVD and on Blu-ray. And also something I want you guys to do, I want you guys to recommend which DC animated Batman movies, which specifically Batman DC animated movies you guys want me to review for this year, because this year is Bat Year, and like I just mentioned, we are having 2 new Batman animated movies coming out this year. So which animated Batman movies do you want me to review for this year for Bat Year? Leave your, recommendations in the comment below. And also, what DC animated movies, just in general, do you want me to review? I really do want to round up all the DC animated movies and just review them eventually for you guys. But for right now, recommend which Batman ones you want me to review, and then later recommend which just whatever DC animated movie you want me to review later on. After Bat Year is all wrapped up and done. So that about does it for this review. That's all I have to say. So I'll see you guys next time with a LEGO Batman tutorial this week. So I'll see you guys soon.